Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nonprofit Enthusiasts Live. We're going to give it a few minutes before we get started. Today, we are talking about process and technology for nonprofit organizations. So definitely invite your friends to the Facebook group. If they're already members, go ahead and tag them into this live so that they can tune into this conversation. Along with, if you're catching us on replay, give us a hashtag replay in the chat box. And while we wait for others to join, just go ahead and let me know that you're here. Good morning. How you doing? How's your week going? And we'll get started shortly. While we wait for others to join, I just want to say a special thanks to this month. You know, we're starting a new month this month. So our theme this month is process and technology. And every month we've been fortunate to have a sponsor. So this month's sponsor is Lush Design Studio. So our sponsor is a graphic branding and content designer. You can check them out at www.buylushdesignstudio.com. And we just want to thank them for supporting the nonprofit community and allowing us to continue to live this month. All right, let's jump right in, you all. So this month theme is processes and systems, and it is so important for your nonprofit to have processes and systems in place. So today I'm going to kick off the conversation. Throughout the month, we will be having guests join us, so I'm looking forward to that. But I want us to remember, well, one, let me back up. If you have missed any of our other lives, go ahead and check out the guide section of this group so that way you can catch up on some of the areas that we talked about. Last month we were focused on marketing, but this month we're going into processes and systems. And one thing I like to say, if you're like, oh my gosh, in my nonprofit, I don't know what should be my main goal this month, just follow our theme. So this month is processes and systems. How can we get that in place within our nonprofits? Make that your goal this month. So that way, while we're having these conversations, if you have questions, you can enter them. And also you'll be able to apply a lot of things that we are going over throughout the month. So I'm going to jump right into it. So oftentimes you all may have heard me talk about people, processes, and technology, PPT, or people, processes, and systems, using those to take your nonprofit to the next level. I love to share the importance of involving people in the development of your organization and the many benefits of doing so. So having people in your organization allows you to bring, new ideas into your organization, diversify the skill sets within your organization, support your organization in building its capacity, increase funds coming in to support your organization, and so much more. So I know as nonprofit founders, I was there. Oftentimes, you sometimes want to do things yourself. You feel like, I'll just do it. No. Involving people into the process, whether it's your board, your volunteers, interns, staff, contractors, whatever it may be, brings a whole new set of skill set into your organization to help it grow. But this month's theme, we're really focusing on processes and systems. But I just want to touch on people, because when you have people, processes, and systems, if you haven't come to one of our PPT trainings, we talk about how you can use that to scale your nonprofit to the next level. So why systems and processes matter. Developing systems and processes for your organization is important to its growth. One of the things is, and especially if you're a founder, you just started your organization, you may be the one doing a little bit of everything. If you have a process in place, like let's say you're managing your marketing, but you document that process, and then you're able to use systems, you can easily kind of hand that over to someone to take over those responsibilities. So it's very important to have systems and processes, no matter what size your organization may be. Implementing the right systems can save you time, energy, and money, while processes can help define repeated behaviors within your organization to create consistency and effectiveness. Because yes, having system and processes together creates a whole automated life. Being able to implement that right process with the right system, you're able to save a lot of time and money. And sometimes you do have to invest in systems in order to do so, but it pays off in the long run. And also you may have to spend additional time developing the process. But there is nothing like, I know I hate it when, let's say there's a process that we're continuously doing, and it's like, okay, it's that time of the year again, time for us to do it, and no one remembers what we did. And I think we all can relate, no matter how good your processes or systems are, we can all relate to those moments. And that's just a reminder of why it's important to have systems and processes. I'm gonna take a little break here and monitor the chat box, see who we got. Abigail, good morning. Hey. Hey, Keyshawn. Yes, for systems. I see you, Abigail. Awesome. All right. Yeah, so without systems and processes, you'll find yourself wasting time, valuable time and resources within your organization. So it's very important to have systems and processes in place. Systems is anything from how do you book your meetings? Like, are you doing I know for me, I'm gonna tell y'all this, and there are calendar systems out there. When I first started the organization, I remember we used to have to go in 2012, we used to have to go back and forth. Y'all remember where you either email and say, hey, how's these dates, times, and whichever, and then they'll go ahead and respond to you. Okay, that date and time work, but guess what? You already booked someone else in that date and time. So now what you got to do? You got to go back to them and give them a whole nother set and date and time. That in itself tells you now we got calendar systems that does it for us. It reserves it on the slots for them on our calendar, so we don't end up double booking ourselves, and it saves us so much time, so much energy. We don't have to go back and forth in those emails. Y'all know, if you can relate, go ahead and drop something in the chat box. I know you all know about that. So having systems, again, is important from everything that you do within your organization. You may find that your organization is still using Excel spreadsheets. There is nothing wrong with using Excel spreadsheets. Let's say to manage your volunteers. As volunteers come in, you might update the spreadsheets, count their hours, and so forth. But nowadays, there are so much different systems that you can implement to help make that a little bit more efficient. So I'm going to walk through a couple just for example purposes. Like, let's say in that same example of having your volunteer application, you may have a manual driven process right now. So of course you can complete the application online, right? Move it from paper onto the website. Hopefully, I know there may be some paper still existing, but hopefully a lot of you have moved your volunteer process to more of an electronic process. You may have a video to help schedule, to orient your volunteers. You might have a scheduling system to schedule their meet and greets with you all, or to schedule your orientation, so you're not doing that back and forth that I talked about earlier. After the meet and greet, you might have some sort of system, and this might be all in one system where they complete the application, then they go ahead, they watch the video, they do a calendar scheduling if that's the way that it's set up for your organization. Then after that, you approve them, they watch the orientation, they're ready to get started, and then there's a system tracking their hours and so forth. And there are also free systems out there that can support. If you're a smaller organization, you're like, I just don't have the money right now to invest in a system. There are free systems that you can set up in order to do a lot of these automated portions as well. And it does, again, it saves you time and resources when you implement these systems. So then when we talk about processes, and I'm just going to stop for a minute, go into the chat box, see how everyone's doing. Hey, Jada, thank you for joining us. So when you talk about processes, that involves documenting the procedure for implementing the system. One of a really good way, if your organization doesn't have a standard operating procedure, that's something that no matter, again, you could be small, large, mid-sized, just started, something that is worth starting. So that way future employees can use it and existing employees can remember what happened, because I'm guilty. I've been there where we've done a process for years And then when it's time to do it all over again, I'm like, what happened? So then I'm able to pull out our SOP and go through it. And another thing is I'm guilty of as well. Sometimes you might not have the time to necessarily train, let's say, or onboard someone. Of course, you'll have a system in place, but let's say they just got on the ground. This is a good, when you have the standard operating procedure, you can also share that with them as well. That doesn't take away from the human factor, but at least they have something where they can see, oh, this is how it was done in the past. These are the steps. Okay. And they could come, when you're working together, they're able to ask questions and so forth from there. So an example of this is, for instance, let's say you might have a hiring process for your new employees. So you should have, hopefully in your standard operating procedures, you have your processes for that written out. So you might have, okay, identifying hiring needs, writing job descriptions, conducting an internal intake meeting, advertising and recruiting for the position, reviewing the applications, conducting initial screening. So you all kind of get the gist, like every step of the way, this is what's happening as a part of the process. And then in your procedures, you also outline who's responsible. When you're developing those procedures, do not put names. I do not recommend putting names in there because people can change, but put positions. So what position, like something like this will be probably the HR coordinator or someone in that HR realm position will be responsible for these roles or different parts of these roles, along with the program manager or whoever's the hiring, whoever's the manager that is in need of that staff member at that time. So I don't recommend putting names on documents, even as a newer organization. A lot of times when it comes to developing procedures, I recommend putting general, position titles for it. So that way, when it changes, let's say that person moves up in the organization, it's easy to kind of say, well, this is now, your role, and they're able to move into their new role. All right. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat box. If you have any processes and systems that work for you, drop those in the chat box as well. We're here to help each other and continue to learn. I just want us to kickstart this month thinking about how can we implement processes, systems, technologies into what we do on a daily basis to make things more efficient. How can we document what we're doing? Sometimes, like a lot of organizations, you're doing your back to school drive. How many of you had to rewrite your sponsorship packet or rewrite the email that goes out to the sponsorship packet or had to go find it? If you had it in one place where you have, okay, these are the emails we send out to the donors. This is the invite. These are the templates for flyers that we use. Every year should just get easier. All right, so here's some tips for implementing systems and processes, because some of you probably are like, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot. One thing I like to say is involve everyone in the organization in the process. So if you have your marketing team, you may have them develop like everything. Let's say when they're running social media, write down the steps for what you're doing. We had to do this within our organization. Of course, when we started in 2012, we did not have a standard operating procedure, but eventually what we did was, as the teams got comfortable in their roles, every team was responsible for developing their procedures for what they've done. And in order to facilitate that process, we developed a template. And that's my next tip. Develop a template for documenting the process. So that way, when each team is working on it, they're still filling it out the same, similar information, and it's easy to understand when we compile everything. So develop a template for documenting the process. And you can oftentimes find templates online, and it's just a matter of finding what works for your organization and the work that you do. And the last tip that I have is identify at least one person who is responsible for overseeing the standard operating procedure or this process and keeping it updated. I've seen it where oftentimes, let's say it got started, you have your standard operating procedure in place, but no one's focusing on, oh, we need to update this, or no one's going back to say, oh, we're missing this one. So you at least want to have someone that you hold responsible and say, this is your role, is to make sure that we keep these updated, because a lot of times you are just going. You're not thinking about documenting the process. I know a lot of you right now probably are planning those back to school drives and planning those upcoming events, and how often do you sit down and say, let me look at the entire process? So at least having someone to kind of remind you to document that is helpful along the way. All right. So I'm gonna check the chat box, see if we have any questions or anything. Hi, Trey, thanks for joining us. All right, if you have any questions, again, if you have any processes, systems that you use, drop them in the chat box. That's what we're gonna be talking about throughout this month. So we like to lead these sessions with homework. So here's your homework. Review the areas within your organization that can use more efficiency, and think about what systems and processes can best support. I know sometimes, like, I have plenty of systems and processes in mind that I would love to move to, but if you document this, even if right now, let's say your budget does not support it, but you implement something that may be at that free or low cost range and build up, once you know in advance, like, let's say, I'll just use an example, you may have a system that you use for and I'll tell y'all one of my favorite systems, Airtable. So I love Airtable. They have free, they have paid, they have all of that. And I know that, okay, within Airtable, I can do so much, run so much different parts of what we do. But at the same time, I know there are systems built, for instance, in that volunteer management realm. So one of the things that we did is, prior to even switching over, we went ahead and kind of sourced what will be our next level. Because remember, when you're looking at people, processes, and technology, right when you go through the whole cycle of getting all of that in place, because you're scaling, oftentimes you find yourself moving to the next level again. You'll be like, man, I got all the people in place, I got all the process going, all the systems going, I'm good. Like, we got it. But guess what happens? Because all of that is in place and it's working together well, it's like, oh my gosh, we got to move to the next level and we got to do it soon. So I like to kind of forecast ahead what that looks like. So I like to know, okay, when we get to this level, this is when we're moving into this state. And then it makes that process a lot easier. So review the areas, even if it's like, maybe I can't do it right now, go ahead and document those, because you never know. So when someone may come and say, hey, do you need this? A lot of systems, interestingly, we also have, and I'll share that as well, if you haven't seen our blog where we share low cost and free systems for nonprofit, check those out, because a lot of online tools provide either discounts or low cost for nonprofit organizations. So definitely check those out. So that's your homework. Review the areas that you can use more efficiency in within your organization, and the systems and processes that can best support that. And then, of course, you all know we like to continue this homework. Invite a friend to the group. Let's not keep this information to ourselves. The more of us in here, the more we're able to share and learn from one another. So just take a moment, go up to the top, click invite a couple friends into the group, so they can tune in when we do these weekly live sessions. All right. Let me make sure there is no questions. Morning, Maria. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Marcia. Good morning. All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in. A special thanks once again for this month's Nonprofit Enthusiast Live sponsor, graphic designer, Lush Design Studio, for supporting our nonprofit community. It's our sponsors that make doing this on a weekly basis possible. So we like to thank them, support them. I know me personally, I am very big at where I shop and invest in, and I love to see companies that give back to the community. That's where I want to go and spend my time. So thank you, Lush Design, for doing that. And we will be back this month, y'all. We have guest speakers coming out. I think we're booked up until about the end of August, and you don't want to miss these conversations. So definitely tune in to the Nonprofit Enthusiast Lives, or just add it to your schedule. If you have to catch us on replay, that's fine. Give us a hashtag replay so that we know that you are here. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday, and I will see you all later. Bye, everyone.